In the grand theater of life, we all seek a comeback, a resurgence, a rekindling of our inner fire. But how do we spark that flame? Welcome to Reignite Resilience. This is not just another podcast. This is a journey, a venture into the heart of human spirit, the power of resilience, and the art of reigniting our passions.
Welcome back to another episode of Reignite Resilience. I'm your co-host, Natalie Davis, and I'm so excited to be back with you all. I'm stumbling over my words today. Hey, Pam, how are you?
Well, it's been a minute since we've recorded, so I think we're like a little dusty and rusty. And so
that might be it. Exactly. I'm also day 2 in a 16-day cleanse, kind of like this reset. So I may have foggy brain. I don't know. Who knows what will happen? I am eating food. Like there's food as a part of this program. So I should be okay.
We went to, just so the audience knows, we met for lunch yesterday with a dear friend of ours. And Natalie's like, I'll have sparkling water. And it's like, what? That's it. And then you try to pay for your own sparkling water.
But I'm a cheap date. What can I say?
Okay. All right.
Listen, exactly. It's just a season. Don't you worry. In 2 weeks, I will be back. I don't know what it's going to feel like, but you know what? We'll see. I'm supposed to have more mental clarity, more energy, a fabulous reset. I'll report back to the listeners or follow me on Instagram. You guys will see the story there. I'm going to start to share it. But anyway, we're not here to talk about my eating habits. We have a fabulous guest joining us today. So I am so excited to dive in. We actually have a guest, Carlo Taormina, who's joining us today. And Carlo is actually a men's mindset and peak performance coach. He's also a keynote speaker, and he is traveling around the world sharing his story and his message about overcoming clinical depression and suicidal ideation. So that's a big topic. And I know that this is something that really strikes a chord with many, if not personally, at least someone within their sphere, their circle, or their family that they've connected with. So Carlo is helping individuals break through those limiting beliefs that we have and helping people overcome those challenges if they find themselves in the same spot. Carlo, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. Thank you very much for having me. I'm really, really excited to be here.
Exactly. Well, we are excited to hear your story. First of all, I want to say thank you for taking the time out to share your story with others and helping to empower others through your own experience and your insight that you're passing along. I would love for us just to start at the beginning with overcoming this clinical depression and what that journey looked like for you. Kind of share that story with our listeners, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's kind of funny because before this even happened, I was always the chipper guy, the happy-go-lucky guy, the jokester and whatnot, always optimistic. People would always tell me Carlo, why are you so happy all the time? And when I was kind of going in on my teenage years, I started to kind of just, I don't know, I've always just loved personal development. I love mindset work. That's just been a part of me. And as well, just taking care of myself physically. I got bit by the fitness bug. I became a personal trainer later on when I was my early 20s. And, things were looking great. And I had these big, ambitious dreams, these big, ambitious goals. I want to help serve people. I want to do the whole 9 yards, I want to leave the world better than I found it, so to speak. That's always been my philosophy ever since I was a kid. And I just had this innate craving or this desire just to help people. It's not like one day, let's just do it. It's just something that's always been a part of my nature. I remember when I was a kid, teenager, growing up, if I saw somebody that was in need, I would at least try to do something to help. Whether it be give a couple bucks to somebody on the side of the street, or, I see somebody at a gas pump who is pushing their car literally to the pump. Mm-hmm. I will drop everything and help that person get the car to the pump. So that's just how I've always been. Now, when we fast forward in 2020, things were going great. The whole pandemic, that didn't really affect me as unfortunately as it affected a lot of people with their own mental health. I was never really cooped up in the house. I was still working. My family at the time had a restaurant. We still have a restaurant, but it was considered like essential, right? So we're still working. We're probably not doing dine-in. We still do takeout, delivery, all that stuff. But I'm still working, so I didn't have that like cabin fever type thing or being cooped. I just didn't have that. But as the year was progressing, because, not only was I working in the restaurant before the gym closed, or the gyms closed, sorry, I was a personal trainer in a gym. But then, of course, the gyms closed and we couldn't really get back in there. Then eventually, as the year progressed, things were kind of starting to open up here and there. And I got another job at a gym, being a manager of this fitness club. I left the restaurant. And during this time, I was still very ambitious, very, happy-go-lucky, very positive. But this is where a lot of this started coming to light, like the negative thoughts, the mental health stuff, because growing up, I found a couple of pieces of evidence that kind of said, oh, wow, I might be dealing with something that I should be taking care of now. But it wasn't as, I guess, prevalent, it wasn't as strong or big as it was toward the end of the year of 2020. So this is December now of 2020, right before the end of the year, right before the holidays, right before my birthday. And all of a sudden, like, all hell breaks loose. I actually like to call it my hell week, because the span of 7 days, I felt like I got hit from every single direction, and I didn't know how to react. I didn't know how to respond. So I kind of threw my hands in the air. I said, okay, I can't do this anymore. So within this 7 day span, I'm at this gym. I'm a manager of this club. I get fired from this job, right before the holidays, which is like the best time to get fired from a job. And I'm just like freaking out. I'm saying to myself, okay, I need to find something really quick. What am I going to do? I need to make money. At the time as well, I had my own online personal training business, because during the pandemic, I was like, people still want to work out, but the gyms are closed. I want to do something about this. Well, of course, I wasn't full-time in my business yet. I still needed the 9 to 5. I lost the 9 to 5. And on top of that, my business is actually doing terribly. I'm losing more money than I'm making. I'm spending it all on like advertisements, marketing, all that stuff, trying to get clients through the door, and nobody's biting. Yeah. So my business is failing. So now I feel like I'm screwed. I just don't know where the next paycheck's going to come from. And then to kind of add more salt to the wound is, during that same week, I went through a really bad injury. I had a herniated disc, my L5S1 vertebrae, which is not ticklish at all. It's very, very painful. And it was so bad to a point where I just couldn't walk for a period of time. I just couldn't do it. It was just too painful. So being the fit guy, being the person who needs to move, is being forced to lay in bed, not able to move, and just kind of trapped with his thoughts. It's definitely not a recipe for success. So things just kind of started dwindling, and there was this fire that was kind of brewing. And then to kind of add more insult to injury, there was this girl I was seeing at the time who, was very heavily invested in the relationship, as was I. And, she was like, Carlo, we're going to get married. We're going to have kids. We're going to do everything. We're going to have this at the wedding. We're going to have this at the wedding. And I was contributing to that conversation as well, because I saw this person was like, really, sounds cliche, but like head over heels. Right. Yeah. So I was kind of returning that favor. I was like, wow, this is real. This seems like she's the one, so to speak. Well, she calls me one day in this week and just says, hey, Carlo, I want to break up. And I just don't know what to do at this point. Being hit from all these different things all at once within the span of 7 days. And I just kind of freeze. And I'm just like, what happened? What did I do to deserve this? Why me? Why this timing? And I just started asking all of those why questions. And with everything kind of happening, with the dust settling, I did one of those aerial bird eye views of my life. And I just said, what's the point of trying so hard if I can't really do anything about it? I want to help people. I'm super ambitious. I say I'm not a quitter, but at this time, I don't think any of this really pays off. the whole mindset stuff, that probably doesn't pay off. The journaling, reading all these books, getting mentors, maybe that's just all BS. Maybe none of this works. Maybe I'm just destined to lose and fail. And that was my thought process at the time. That's what was brewing for an entire year. And 2021 was the worst year of my life, which originally I thought, turns out it was the best. But during that trying time, or those times of tribulation, so to speak, I honestly thought maybe in a past life I was somebody who was really bad, and maybe this life I'm paying for it. Maybe I should in this life be experiencing what suffering is like. The way my mind was working at the time, I was thinking of these weird conspiracy theories of why this could possibly be happening. And being somebody who is extremely ambitious, who is a high achiever, who wants to succeed, not only for selfish reasons, but to help people, and seeing that identity not being matched externally definitely took a chip in my identity of myself. I was like, maybe I'm just not this person. Maybe I really am a loser. And I actually called myself that many a time throughout the day, but I called myself a professional loser. The Olympics are coming up soon. So I said to myself, if losing was an Olympic sport, I would be a gold medalist. And obviously, as you can tell, with that language and with these thought processes, it only got worse from there. From that, I developed a lot of limiting beliefs about myself that just says, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not smart enough. Maybe I'm not educated enough. Maybe I'm not X, Y, or Z enough, And from those limiting beliefs, from these thoughts, I gave up. I laid in bed for a year in 2021. And the self-hatred was so bad, I refused to look in the mirror. Like people say that cliche saying, I don't like my reflection. That was really true. Yeah. I didn't like it so much, I refused to look at my reflection. And the only thing I wanted to do was just drown my thoughts, just escape, just not to think. I tried sleeping as much as possible. I tried watching as much TV as I could, playing as much video games as I could, listening to as much music as I could. But then sometimes these things would trigger me as well, because I would see other successful people who seem happy, fulfilled, have purpose. And I'm here in my bed with no fulfillment, with no purpose, with nothing. So sometimes these different methods of escaping really kind of came back to haunt me.
Yeah.
So I just had all these different things on shuffle, right? If it's on a YouTube video, it's a TV show. If it's on a TV show, it's a video game. And I just kept putting those things on a loop so I wouldn't have to think about how I don't have purpose and meaning in my life. So now we're laying in bed for a year. I cut off communication with my family, even though I actually at the time lived with my mom and dad. Didn't talk to friends. I didn't eat. I had no appetite. I could care less. I lost 13 pounds from just not caring, and I had no desire to. And I felt so bad because, my parents, of course, they wanted me to feel better. My whole family wanted me to feel better. And they were trying everything to help me do that. My parents would knock on my bedroom door, bring me meals, and I wouldn't even touch them sometimes, But with all that being said, and those thoughts that I was dealing with, or the thoughts I wanted to escape from, really, it just led to a point that just says, you know what, I can't take it anymore. I can't see a way out of this maze, puzzle, this feeling. I think it'll be best if I just ended my life. And that's what I wanted to do. That's what I believed. And that's what ultimately I ended up trying to do. Luckily, I couldn't go through with the process because, there's just this one day where I'm in my bedroom and right downstairs are my parents, the people who brought me into this world. And I'm about to remove myself. And I am in my bedroom and I have everything, staged, so to speak. And I was about to do the deed, so to speak, and I just couldn't go through with it. I had this terrible anxiety attack. I was a mess. I was, I forget the word, but I'm just kind of going all over the place. I'm all over the walls. I'm crying. I'm deep breathing or shallow breathing, so to speak. And I feel like I'm choking and have this almost like elephant sitting on my chest. And I just couldn't go through with it. Now, after that, that time, I was like, you know what? I still feel this way. I still can't bear this pain anymore. If it's not today, it'll be tomorrow. And if it's not tomorrow, it'll be next week. So it was still in the back of my mind, but maybe not today. Right. And that was like my coping mechanism. That was my backup plan. That was, something that made me feel safe for some odd reason. So now we're towards the end of 2021. I spent a year practically in this state. And it's November. And I remember my mom asked me, she was like, "Hey, Carlo, let's go out to lunch. Let's do something different. Let's get you out of the house. Let's just mix things up." Of course, my default response was no, just leave me alone. I want to stay in my bed. I don't want to talk to anybody. Just leave me be. Eventually, my mom kind of broke me down. I was like, okay, fine. We'll go out to lunch. It was me, my mom, my brother, my sister. My dad wasn't there. He was busy at the time doing something. But I'm sitting out to lunch with my family, and it was the most uncomfortable, social anxiety-fueled lunch I've ever had. I felt like the invisible man, so to speak. My whole family's gathered around me. They're all having conversations, and I'm just sitting there essentially by myself, not communicating, not engaging, just sitting there eating my little salad, trying to be as small as possible. Then toward the end of the meal, my brother comes to me and he says, "Hey, you rode with mom to the restaurant. How about you ride with me? Just you and me. We'll just, hit the road. We'll go back to mom's house. We're all going there anyway. Just come ride home with me." Okay, sure. So we're riding home, and then we park in the driveway, and we have this 10-minute conversation. Now, this conversation literally helped change my life. We are in the car, and even though 10 minutes, it felt like an eternity. My brother just puts the car in park. He just says, "Okay, what are we going to do? How can we help you? We're tired of seeing you like this. You always used to be the life of the party. You always used to be the funny guy. Now I felt like I lost my brother. Mom and dad feel like they lost their son, and we're trying our best to do something to help you. But at this point, we don't know what to do anymore. You didn't want to do therapy, but we asked you to try it. You tried it. That didn't work. Okay. We tried doing these other things. Those didn't work. Now I want you to tell me, what is it we can do to help you?" And I said to my brother, I was like, "There's nothing you can do. I mean, if there was something, I would have thought of it already. If it's out there, I would have done it. But I can't think of a realistic, logical, theoretical way of me getting out of this hole. I think this is literally my destiny. And I can't escape it, even if I tried, because I have." And my brother just couldn't wrap his brain around that. So he tells me, he's like, "Look, bottom line is I am your brother, and I would do anything for you. You're my brother. Would you do anything for me?" And I said, "Of course. That's what family's all about." He says, "Okay, I'm glad you said that, because I have a favor I want to ask you." I didn't know that was a trap. And I was like, okay, what am I getting myself into? He says to me, he's like, "Okay, I want you to do something different. I want you to leave, get out of here, go on a trip, do that." And then I'm thinking he's stupid, because I'm like, you have no idea how hard it is for somebody like me in my position to get out of bed, to go out of my bedroom, show my face, go out in public, eat lunch with you all. Like, that's just too hard for me. And you know how hard it was and how much convincing it took to do that? And now you want me to go on a plane to God knows where and do God knows what? No, I can't do that. And then the next thing he told me literally just kind of hit me like a lightning bolt. And it really made me process and think. And this is honestly what I think great coaches do. And this is why I'm in the coaching industry, why I want to help people, is that we all have answers inside of ourselves. There's nothing external. It's all internal. And once we ask better questions, we get better results. And this was like my first taste of that. My brother asks me, he says, at this point, what do you have to lose? And then this is where like I had that time stood still moment. And I'm like, okay, let's think about that. Honestly, I don't have anything to lose. I feel like I have lost everything. The only way to go is up. And as I was processing this, I still had that quote unquote plan B in the back of my mind. I was like, hey, you know what? If this doesn't work, I can still clock out early. I can still do something. I can still, take that step. So again, I don't obviously recommend anyone doing that, but that was just what kept me comfortable for some reason. So as I'm processing this question, two things happened. And of these two things, this is what I like to credit to putting me on this yellow brick road, so to speak, to helping me find this breakthrough out of my depression and suicidal ideation mind. The first was when I was processing my brother's question, I shifted my focus from the Carlo who was laying in bed every day, the Carlo who thought he was a loser, who doesn't have meaning, purpose, fulfillment. I stopped thinking about that. I just took a second and shifted my focus to the Carlo I wanted to be. The happy-go-lucky Carlo, the ambitious Carlo, the successful entrepreneur Carlo, the person who would take his shirt off his back and give it to you if you were cold, a philanthropist. And I just kept thinking and focusing on that. And I just remember saying to myself over and over and over again in that car, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I don't want to go. I just said that repeatedly. And the more I said that, it just kind of built up this fire inside of me. And then the second thing that happened that I would really credit to putting me on this path was somehow, some way, this just happened. But I imagined somebody or me or someone else, something struck a match from a matchbook. And I see this tiny little flame. And at the time, I thought this tiny little flame represented the real version of myself. The one of my true potential, the person who would help, the entrepreneur, the high achiever, the person who is full of life. And even though it was so small, this tiny spark, this tiny little flame represented the real me. And I felt like the real me was down there somewhere. Mm-hmm. And I felt like it was in my gut. And even though it was still small, he was still alive. And the more I focused on this little flame, it just grew, it grew. And where I felt like a fireball, essentially. And then with these two things kind of paired against each other, that's where, okay, I came back to reality. And I looked at my brother in his eyes and I said, okay, fine, I'll do this. I'll do this trip. And now he's really excited. He's like, okay, perfect. Where do you want to go? Now, to give context, I'm in Virginia. Now, Virginia is a state that does not like to make up its mind. So November, sometimes it's nippy, sometimes it's a little warm, just depends. Around that time in that year, it was a little cold. So I said to my brother, I was like, you know what? If I'm going to go somewhere, I want to go somewhere warm what's the point of going somewhere else cold? I want to do something warm. He says, okay, well, where do you want to go? I just said the first thing that popped in my mind. I said, I don't know, Florida? Okay, perfect. When would you like to go? Soon. Okay. Do you want to go alone? Do you want to come with me? What's the deal? I said, please come with me. I don't know what I'm going to do if I'm by myself. I'll probably just lay in the hotel room all day. Come along with me. He says, okay. Don't worry about a thing. I will send you the details tonight. Okay. That was a Sunday. That night, I get plane tickets that says we're going to West Palm Beach, Florida on Tuesday. Now, neither of us knew where West Palm Beach, Florida was. We didn't know if it was on the East Coast, West Coast, North, South. We didn't know. He literally picked it because it sounded sexy. Like that's the only reason why he picked West Palm Beach. So I got on a plane and I went to Florida and I immediately regretted it. I regretted it on my layover in Charlotte. And I was like, what did I just do? Why did I go on a plane? Why did I leave my bed? Why did I leave the house? I don't want to be here. I want to go back home. Eventually, we arrived in Florida. Day 1 was just misery. I was just like, I don't want to be here. Day 2, same stuff. And my brother's trying to, rent jet skis. Let's go to the beach. Let's go fishing on a boat. Let's do something. And me, I just want to go lay in the hotel room.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember on that second day, like the most exciting thing we had done up to that point was we had went to like a local pharmacy, bought a deck of cards, and played Go Fish in the Park. Like that was the most high intensity, party driven activity we had done up to that point. And I didn't want to do anything beyond that level.
Yeah.
Well, I remember if we fast forward in that second day, my brother and I were just talking. We're sitting on this patio table and we're just shooting the stuff, whatever, just kind of BSing, talking back and forth. And all of a sudden I see he puts his phone down on the table and he says, I booked us something to do. I'm not going to tell you what it is though. All you need to do is just get up and follow me. Now I'm filled with fear because not only do I have this social anxiety, but now I'm just having a regular panic attack because I'm just like, what's he going to have me do? Am I going to go in the middle of the ocean fishing somewhere? Am I going to go on a jet ski, go to the beach, run a bike? Am I going to go to a nightclub? I don't know what's going to happen. So of course I'm anticipating the worst. And he just says, shut up and just walk. Okay, you got it. So he and I are just walking and we're walking and all of a sudden we're at this stoplight. We're about to cross the street. And all of a sudden, while the light's red and cars are passing, I'm just passing the time, looking at my surroundings, not really making anything of it. And then all of a sudden I see in front of me, there's this big building that says West Palm Beach Convention Center. I didn't think anything of it. I looked down at the sign sticking out of the ground. And this sign says, Tony Robbins, unleash the power within. And I kind of took a moment and I looked at my brother. He didn't say anything. I was like, are you serious? He says, I don't know what you're talking about. Now, to give context, like I mentioned before, we've always been involved in personal development, mindset stuff. So, of course, we knew who the freak Tony Robbins is.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I honestly credit divine intervention, God, the universe, whoever you choose to believe, because, the way my thinking is my brother picked a random location. I agreed to go on this trip on this certain time, these certain days. Like, I just think it was divine intervention, right? So we're going to this event, this seminar, apparently. And even then, I was still so skeptical and I was very pessimistic. And I just said, you know what? I'm in a room of like 10,000 people, but I really hope this is not like a concert type of event. I hope it's not like, oh, I'll have fun now, but it's like that vacation mindset where it's like, okay, I might have fun, but when I'm done, it's like, okay, back to reality. I hate that phrase. And that's what I feared what was going to happen.
Yeah.
But what I'm so glad is that I committed myself. I went, I did what they asked, and I found some light bulbs here and there. I was doing self-reflection, doing my own coaching, so to speak. And what I realized is, yes, I learned valuable insight from when I went to that seminar. But honestly, I wouldn't be here if I didn't make the choice to get out of bed, right? So my motto, this is what I teach my clients, this is what I speak about on stage, is no matter what it is you're going through in life, it does not take weeks, months, years to change your life. It only takes one moment that leads to one decision that leads to one action. And that's what I did back at home. I was confronted with a moment that came to me that led to a decision that led to me taking action. And if it wasn't for me getting out of bed to getting on a plane, randomly to some random location that just so happens to be at the place and time that I needed to be, I would not be here.
Mm-hmm. Being
a coach, being a speaker, talking to you lovely ladies, so that's something I really credit to helping me and helping my other clients, but that's the story of Carlo.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Reignite Resilience. We hope that you had amazing ahas and takeaways. Remember to subscribe on your favorite streaming platform, like it and download the upcoming episodes. And if you know anyone in your life that is looking to continue to ignite their resilience, share it with them. We look forward to seeing you on our future episodes. And until then, continue to reignite that fire within your hearts.